Hey you Mexicans, welcome back to this new video where today we're going to be looking at a scenario where what if the Square Alliance from Wixo World War III wins World War III. So we're going to have to assume a lot of things this whole entire thing is going to have to win World War III. So the Square Alliance, including the Old Empire, Sudan, Norway, the Iberians, the Farmers Union, and America. And how do we do that? Well, I have a plan for this. Now, of course, at first the Russians will have their advances, so they'll push into the old empire. So just turn on the tolerance. No, there we go. So they push into the old empire from the border. They push in real great, actually. It stops here, though, because the old empire hunkers down this front line. And as a matter of fact, here's where the timeline splits as well. Hold up. So we see the split as we see the Romans join the Square Alliance earlier. And so, yeah. We also will go ahead and see that the Eastern African Union, or really just the Mediterranean country, wants to restore the African Union, and so that's what it'll do. And it doesn't like West Africa in here anyway. So yeah. So yeah, we just see that the old empire will push back Russia pretty significantly. The Russians will... Dang it. I don't know what the heck was going on with the tolerance there. But the Russians will be kicked out of the eastern part of this front line. The western part will hold for a bit, though. As we go ahead and focus on another part of the front line, we see the old Imperians actually focus pretty heavily on Central Asia, especially the green team because they're the biggest op. So yeah, they capture the capital. And yeah, the green team collapses instantly. I want that we see all the Imperial forces push into this thing right here. With some forces also pushing in from Russia, too. While also giving the go-ahead to push into pink team. Yeah, let's just say Central Asia they collapses pretty quickly. Especially considering that the Chinese are here. Which, by the way, the old Imperians and the Chinese agree on something. Let's focus on the Cross Alliance before we get to each other, which is very different from what they did in their original timeline. So yeah, we just see that the old Imperians push out all that. And we see the Russians are pushed into here. Old Imperial forces come out of the Farmers Union. And Roman forces are coming out from their front line too. They would have already came out, but you know, they take out these two German states and also push into their own side here. We see another country join the Square Alliance. That being Finland. So let me give them their shape. They're joining because the Russians took some land from them that they want to reclaim for themselves. So that's what they'll do. And what a good reclamation of land they do. As they push in very well from their front line. And actually, as a matter of fact, they do end up taking all their land and then some. They capture this equivalent of St. Petersburg before eventually hunkering down on this front line and letting the old Imperians and the Romans handle this, which they do. So we see them capturing the capital, capturing all these cities around it. And eventually the Russians themselves, after this, just completely collapse. So it all just goes to old Imperial control. So, yeah. Welcome to old Imperial control Russia. Now, there's a couple more cross members that need to be dealt with. Like, for example, the African Unions. The Moroccan country. And they're definitely really wanting their land back. As a matter of fact, most people actually support being in the Mediterranean country because of how horrible Morocco has even dealt with this war. Like in this timeline, Morocco didn't do so well. They never did. So yeah, this part of it falls over to the African country. And we just see this getting relinquished over to Iberia. It doesn't even get occupied, it just gets relinquished. And, well, the orange country is like, nope, we're out. So, yeah. Now, all we have remaining is the Texan country over here. And they will be pushing in. The Mexicans pushing from their part. Shit. The Mexicans pushing from their part as they seek to get some land for themselves. The Americans pushing from their part. That'd be here. And then the West Mexicans want a bit too. No, they won't get as much as they did in the original timeline. Because the Americans will the Americans will blitz in, capturing this capital. There's a lot more Old Empyrean help here, so this is kind of why it's happening. So we just see the Los Angeles part fall pretty quickly. And along with that, we see the remaining part fall over to the Mexicans. And the West Mexican part is going to be separate from this war. And, well, the Mexicans and the Americans just agreed to... They just agreed to completely peace out. Now, the Square Team hasn't collapsed, but the Square Team kind of, like, the old empire kind of encourages America to just peace out here. As, I mean, the Mexicans do a deal where they leave the Square, like, the Circle Alliance, and in exchange, they'll get the lands that they got fighting for the Circle Alliance without losing any of their territory. So, that's perfect. So that's, you can tell that the old empire was just wanting to get American troops over here. They're not, like, as strong as they are during the elites, like the War of the Elites, but they're pretty decently powerful. Or pretty decently, like, their military is pretty decent, so they would help in a front line against the Chinese, which is what we're going to do now. But side note, the old empire is not planning to invade from here because that's just kind of a waste of time. And I mean, they will do some push-ins from this territory, but given that's not going to be the main front line because it's just not what they're going to do. They will take the what used to be the brown country, though. That's just kind of that. And then a front line will be created in the Tibetan country. They capture the capital. They do all that. And realistically, this one should also be captured, so we'll go ahead and fix that. But as for the Chinese and South Chinese and all that, most of the work that they're gonna do is gonna go with 3 new members of the Square Alliance. Now, let's take a look, shall we? The first 2 that join the alliance is the Vietnamese country and the Korean country. These 2 want their revenge against South China and China, respectively. Now, I would like you to know that in our original timeline, these 2 joined in their own alliance for this. But since these 2 want revenge against these 2, and the Square Alliance just offers them to do it anyway, they get it. But did I forget to mention there's a third one? That's right. The Siberians join against the Square Team, or joins on the Square Team. Of course, in exchange for getting a lot of their old land back with Russia, and also getting some of their old land back from China. So with all that in mind, and if everyone agreeing, we will now see the push-in of all these forces. So first comes the Koreans, and they will push in pretty well with the help of the old Empyreans. The second one that comes in is the the Seafoam Siberians with the help of the Old Imperians, of course. And then the Vietnamese coming from their front line. Now, unfortunately, I don't think the borders here are actually any right because this looks terrible. I'm going to have to fix this in the peace treaty. But, yeah. South China actually folds immediately. And then once the Circle Alliance is just overwhelmed. And with, don't forget about the fact that, the Old Imperials are still doing their rampage on Tibet. That has stopped. After this, the Circle Alliance is like, okay, fine, we surrender. Just please don't take all of our land. The Square Alliance doesn't plan to, especially because they're nowhere near the place anyway. But yeah, with that being said, though, now we can take a look at the peace treaty. So in this peace treaty, we see that well, the square team, of course, have won World War III. So we see that the Farmers Union gets a lot of land over here in like what is Ukraine. We see the old empire getting some land over in Crimea, and along with that they or not Crimea, the rest of Ukraine. And along with that, they surround what remains of the Caspian Sea, so all this. And, see, what else? They annex a bit of land from the Afghanistan country, a little bit of land from Tibet and what I think would be Kyrgyzstan, I believe. And then we also see that the Galicians annex the little part of Iberia that the West Africans owned, and along with that, the African Union is back. They get back the western part of their union, so yeah, they're back. And what else? Am I missing anything crucial? Oh yeah, right. China. China has lost a lot, like all their territory that they took from the Seafoam Green Siberians. They lost a lot more to the Koreans, and they lost South China to the Vietnamese. And the Circle Alliance and the Cross Alliance were forced to disband, with the Square team remaining, and the Koreans and the Vietnamese have left that alliance, but the Finnish and the African Union remains in that alliance. And what else? Oh yeah, the Star Economic Alliance disbands because the West African Union doesn't really exist to uphold it. So yeah, and over here in in North America, we have basically all the Texan country, like all the core stuff being annexed by America, with Baja California and all that being annexed by West Mexico, and then the rest of Mexico being annexed by East Mexico. So yeah. With that being said, though, that'll end part 1 of this series. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a new video. Peace out.